In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 NHL games happening on January 18th, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 NHL games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Tampa Bay Lightning versus Dallas Stars. The Tampa Bay Lightning head into Dallas on Sunday afternoon for a pretty high-level matchup with the Stars. Tampa sits in second place in the Eastern Conference, while Dallas is sitting in second in the Western Conference, so on paper it looks like a heavyweight meeting, even if the recent form tells a very different story. Dallas comes in having dropped 8 of its last 10 games overall. Across those 10, the Stars have managed only 26 goals, which is not exactly what you want to see from a team that was expected to push at the top of the conference. Part of that drag shows up in their volume. They rank 26th in the league in shots this season, averaging just 25.3 shots per game while allowing 27.9 the other way. When you are consistently throwing fewer pucks at the net than your opponent, you are basically asking your goaltending and structure to bail you out every night, and lately that bailout has not been there. Those offensive struggles, especially the lack of pressure and sustained zone time that shot volume usually reflects, could very easily end up being the hinge point in this matchup. On the other side, Tampa Bay walks in with confidence. They have won 9 of their last 10 games overall, and the underlying numbers across that stretch actually support the run rather than scream fluke. In those 10 games, they have scored 45 goals and given up just 24, which is a healthy spread in any league. Their defensive play has been steady all year, not just in a small recent sample. They rank 4th in save percentage this season and are allowing only 26.3 shots per game, which tells you they are limiting both shot quality and quantity reasonably well. Honestly, when a team can keep chances against under control and still look dangerous going forward, it tends to travel well, which matters when you are talking about a road spot like this. Offensively, the Lightning have been more than just good enough. They sit second in the league, averaging 3.48 goals per game while putting up 27.5 shots per night. So they are not a pure volume machine, but they are extremely efficient with the chances they create, and that blend of finishing talent and structure is hard to handle for any defense that is even slightly off. When you layer that on top of the Stars' recent dip, it starts to look like a tough stylistic matchup for Dallas, because Tampa can punish turnovers quickly and does not need 35 shots to find 3 or 4 goals. There is also the road profile to consider. The Lightning own a plus 38 goal differential through 25 away games, which is a serious marker of how comfortable they are outside their own building. A team that consistently wins big away from home is usually locked in with its details, even on nights when the legs are not perfect. Tampa Bay does come into this one after having their long winning streak snapped in the previous game, which is a small reality check. Even so, they have allowed 2 regulation goals or fewer in 5 straight, which shows the defensive standard has not suddenly fallen off a cliff just because of one loss. They are 17-4 on the road this season, which is the kind of road record that usually belongs to teams with serious ambitions. Dallas, meanwhile, is 12-6 at home, solid but nowhere near untouchable. The Stars have dropped 3 of their last 4, and they have scored only 2 total goals across their last 2 outings, which really underlines the current funk in their attack. Over roughly the last 3 weeks, the form line just has not been kind to Dallas. With Tampa's defense operating at a very high level, and with their offense still firing, it makes sense to lean toward the Lightning having the edge to get this one over the line, even if hockey can be chaotic on any given afternoon. As our first pick for this matchup, the Tampa Bay Lightning money line is our full game side pick. On the surface, it is easy to look at 2 offenses that both sit near the top of the league and instinctively think fireworks, especially when you see those goals per game numbers: 3.48 for Tampa, 3.31 for Dallas. If you only scroll a stat page, this screams a shootout. But when you watch how these teams have actually been closing games and what the coaching staffs are leaning into, the picture gets a lot more controlled, almost like both benches secretly agreed not to trade haymakers unless they absolutely have to. The road team has turned into a bit of a score suppressant lately. Even with all that offensive talent, their path to wins on this trip has been a string of 2-1 and 3-2 type finishes, often with their goalie calmly swallowing chances and their defensive structure pushing everything to the outside. That goals against number around 2.54 per game is not some random quirk. It is the product of a system that is comfortable living in low-event, low-mistake hockey, especially in unfamiliar buildings. It is the kind of mindset that coaches love in a season where the standings are tight and the Olympic chatter is already buzzing around star players, because nobody wants track meet fatigue in mid-January. Dallas fits into that quieter script more than their raw goals figure might suggest. Yes, they are one of the top scoring groups in the league across the full season, but they are also fifth in goals against per game at around 2.75, and lately they have been stuck in a stretch of games where they struggle to generate clean looks 5-on-5 when the opponent stays disciplined. Their power play, sitting among the best in the league, is a huge weapon, but the flip side is that their recent 5-on-5 output has not always matched that reputation, especially during this 2-5-3 skid. They are not exactly throttling teams right now, and when you mix that with a road opponent that seems perfectly happy to lean on a hot goalie and a layered defensive structure, you get a game script that feels more like 3-2 than 5-4. Special teams are often where totals tilt, and here they quietly lean you toward a tighter scoreboard. Dallas has that elite power play, Tampa takes too many penalties, and yet the visitors' penalty kill has been one of the most reliable parts of their profile, sitting in the low 80s and bailing them out even on nights where the whistle never stops. That kind of strength on the kill tends to drag the total down over a full 60 minutes, because those "this could blow the game open" power play moments turn into nothing more than 2 minutes off the clock and a reset at 5-on-5. When you add in that both teams' 5-on-5 defensive numbers stack up among the very best in the league, and that recent trends show the hosts losing more often in low-scoring fashion than in wild shootouts, the logic tilts away from expecting constant scoring and more toward expecting stretches where the puck just lives in the corners. So even though the offensive talent on both benches is absolutely capable of breaking a number in half on its own, the way these teams are actually winning and losing right now points toward a more conservative scoring environment, not a freewheeling 9-goal track meet. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Detroit Red Wings versus Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators head into Detroit on Sunday for an NHL matchup at Little Caesars Arena, and it has a bit of recent history drama baked in already. Earlier this season, the Red Wings went into Ottawa and came out with a 5-3 road win, but before that, the Senators had taken 6 of the previous 7 head-to-head games. The scoring patterns have leaned lower too, with the under hitting in 5 of their last 7 meetings. Here is the thing though, the bigger story right now is form and situation rather than old trends. Detroit has simply been the stronger team this season, both in terms of points and overall wins, and they have really settled into a groove on home ice. They come into this one on a 5-1 stretch over their last 6 games, which tells you their current level is pretty high. Even more impressive, they are 7-1 across their last 8 home games, so this building has been a genuine boost, not just a neutral backdrop. You can almost feel that confidence in a team that knows it usually gets rewarded in its own rink. On the flip side, Ottawa is limping into this spot a bit. They are 2-5 over their last 7 games, so the recent results do not exactly inspire trust. To make things trickier, they are on the second leg of a back-to-back, and last night's game in Ottawa went to overtime, which means more minutes in the legs and a shorter recovery window. Anyone who has watched a lot of hockey knows that back-to-backs, especially when travel is involved, can chip away at energy, decision-making, and defensive focus, even if players never admit it out loud. The goaltending situation adds another layer of concern for the Senators. Their starter is unavailable for this one, so they are likely turning to a third-string option in net. That does not automatically mean disaster. Sometimes a depth goalie can steal a game, but it does raise the risk profile in a tough road environment against a hot home team. Mentally, too, it can change how a team plays, either tightening up too much or pressing for offense to help out the goalie, which can backfire. Putting it all together, the gap between these two right now feels wider than just a small difference in record. Detroit has been better over the full season, better lately, and better at home, while Ottawa is tired, short-handed in goal, and not exactly rolling. Honestly, it is hard to buy much of what this Senators group is offering in this specific spot. Detroit looks like the side that should handle business here, and the matchup, schedule, and current form all tilt in their favor. As our first pick for this matchup, the Detroit Red Wings money line is our full game side pick. The posted total is sitting at 6.5 goals almost everywhere, and a lot of books are nudging people toward the over around -115, which already tells you something about how much scoring traders are expecting. If you blend season averages together, you can see why. Detroit games are landing in the neighborhood of 6.1 total goals per night, with those same 3.08 for and 3.02 against figures underneath. Ottawa games are even more amped up, sitting closer to 6.5, with roughly 3.2 goals scored and 3.3 allowed. Put those profiles in the same rink and you get a typical combined output that hovers just above 6.3 goals. Once you add all the messy stuff that never shows up in clean spreadsheets, late-game empty nets, tilted power plays, long changes with tired legs, that 6.5 number stops feeling like a stretch and starts to look more like the middle of the range. A lot of that volatility is baked into Ottawa's identity right now. They are explosive up front and loose at the back, the kind of team that can win 8-4 against the Rangers in one stretch and then get outscored 19-8 over a 4-game skid. That is not a group that drags you into a quiet 2-1 grinder. That is a group that hits the gas and lives with whatever the scoreboard says when the horn goes. Detroit, meanwhile, plays a little more controlled, but they quietly lean into offense more than the old reputation suggests. Their power play is living up around that 24.7% mark. They fire about 28 shots a night, and they have already put up at least 3 goals in 25 of their 49 games. You drop that into a matchup where Ottawa's penalty kill is stuck around 72.4%, and the Sens have been taking close to 5 penalties a game over their last 10, and you get a recipe that feels very friendly to goal scorers. That sort of special teams mismatch is exactly the thing that can blow open a total that looks fair on paper. Detroit's top unit does not need many looks to cash in, and Ottawa's high-event style means they are just as likely to punch back when Detroit has its own defensive lapses, which they do from time to time. The betting market has already picked up on how wild their games can be. Ottawa has been graded as hitting the over 28-19 times this season, with Detroit around 25-24, and that is before you even factor in the current form notes like no key skater injuries on either side, and Ullmark still out. Nothing in the health reports or the recent goaltending storyline screams classic goalie duel. So if you picture this one playing out as Detroit carrying its share of the offense at home while Ottawa continues to skate in that high-octane, low-structure lane they have been in for months, it is hard not to see a scoreboard that leans more toward fireworks than toward a tight 3-2 script. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. St. Louis Blues versus Edmonton Oilers. Let us set the scene in Edmonton on January 18, 2026, with the St. Louis Blues rolling into town to see the Oilers. You have both teams playing the second game of a back-to-back, both coming off wins, but they are not dragging the same emotional carry-on into the rink. Edmonton just walked into Vancouver and steam cleaned the Canucks 6-0, got a tidy 31-save shutout from Tristan Jarry, and did it even while missing Leon Draisaitl, who is back in Germany on a short family-related leave. That kind of result sits in the back of players' minds, it lightens the legs, and fans feel it too, especially when the home crowd knows the party is moving to their building. St. Louis, on the other hand, had to squeeze out a shootout win at home over Tampa, then jump on a plane and reset everything in a hurry. There is a difference between a clean, low-stress blowout and a narrow, high-stress shootout game, and you know which kind of night players would rather repeat. Now you drop that travel on top, and suddenly the Blues are the ones doing the heavier mental and physical lifting before the puck even hits the ice. Zoom out for a second and look at the wider picture. Edmonton sits at a record of 24-17-8 with 165 goals scored, which puts them right near the top of the league in offense. They are not just scoring, they are doing it efficiently, and their power play has been the most dangerous in the league, hovering around the low 30% range. When that top unit hops over the boards in a home game, opponents know they have maybe one mistake to spare, and sometimes not even that. Now contrast that with St. Louis, sitting at 19-21-8, stuck at the bottom of the league in goals for with about 120 on the board and a goal differential around -43. That is not a small gap. That is a different weight class kind of gap. It is the type of profile where you can grind out wins, but you rarely feel like you are dictating to a game, especially against a high-end attack in a loud building. Injuries tilt the ice even more. The Blues are without their top playmaker, Robert Thomas, who sits on injured reserve for a lower body issue, out at least a couple of weeks. Take the leading scorer out of a team that already struggles to score, and suddenly every offensive zone sequence feels like it has to be perfect. It can tighten sticks, and that shows up in little ways, like one extra pass on a 2-on-1 or hesitating on a shot that should be automatic. On the Edmonton side, the blue line has settled after getting Jake Wallman back from long-term injured reserve, which gives them a more balanced look and a better puck mover on the back end. Connor McDavid still drives pretty much everything, 5-on-5 and on the man advantage, with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Hyman right in the middle of things. Even with Draisaitl out for personal reasons, that top of the lineup still has plenty of firepower. You can lose one superstar for a stretch and still be the more dangerous team if the structure and depth are there, and right now that feels like the case. There is also the goalie plan to think about. Jarry just logged that shutout in Vancouver, which points to Connor Ingram getting the home start behind a more rested defensive group. On the St. Louis side, Joel Hofer is expected, though not yet officially confirmed, to go again after a 34-save night against Tampa. That is a lot of rubber to see before getting on a plane and walking into a matchup against one of the best attacks in the league. Now layer in the betting market. Most books are listing Edmonton as a healthy home favorite in the ballpark of -170 to -185 on the money line, with the Blues somewhere around +145 to +160. Those numbers are not from nowhere. They reflect everything we just walked through: the huge edge in offense, the #1 power play, home ice, last change, and a St. Louis team that has a bottom-tier attack, a rough goal differential, and key absences in the forward group. Honestly, when you line all of that up, even allowing for the weirdness that a back-to-back can bring in the NHL, there is a pretty clear side that you would rather be holding for the full game. As our first pick for this matchup, the Edmonton Oilers to cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. You are likely seeing a projected total sitting at either 6.0 or 6.5, depending on your book, with some shops dealing 6.0 and others hanging 6.5 with plus money on the higher side. That is the kind of split that makes line shopping on apps like FanDuel or DraftKings actually feel worth the thumb workout. On paper, the ingredients for a higher scoring game are all sitting right there. Edmonton already has 165 goals through 49 games, which puts them around the top tier in scoring, and that is not an accident. Their power play is the most efficient in the league, sitting roughly at the 33% mark, and the rhythm they have with McDavid, Nugent-Hopkins, Hyman, Evan Bouchard up top, and Wallman as another threat keeps penalty killers guessing. Home ice only sharpens that edge, because last change lets them pick matchups and keep the most vulnerable St. Louis defenders on the ice against that unit. Defensively, the Blues are not a brick wall. They have allowed around 163 goals in 48 games, roughly 3.4 per night. That is a lot of red light action behind their goalies. You do not need advanced models to see that trend. The score bug alone tells the story. Now, it is true that St. Louis does not score a ton themselves. They sit near the bottom of the league at about 2.5 goals per game, around 32nd at roughly 2.48. That sounds like an argument against a higher total, and on some nights it would be. But lately, you still see flashes where they can contribute, especially when special teams or bounces tilt their way, like in that 3-2 shootout win over Tampa where guys like Jake Neighbors and Nick Bjugstad found the net. They may not drive a track meet on their own, but they can add their share to the scoreboard when the game opens up. Goalie situations matter for the total too. Connor Ingram is set to start for Edmonton after Jarry's shutout, which is fine. He has been steady, but he is also playing behind a team that is very comfortable trading chances instead of sitting in a shell. That kind of style can keep your offense humming, but it rarely produces sleepy 2-1 type games. On the Blues side, Hofer is coming off that busy night against the Lightning, and while he has quietly taken on more of the workload, he is still dealing with a defense that gives up dangerous looks and is missing its best puck-moving center in Thomas. When your breakouts are messy, you chase more shifts in your own zone, and eventually that wears on legs and on save percentages. Put all of this together and the picture feels pretty consistent. You have an elite offensive team with the most lethal power play in the league, playing at home, comfortable in a faster, looser style, facing a club that allows plenty of goals and has a rough goal differential. You also have both sides dealing with the fatigue and chaos that comes with a back-to-back and travel, which usually adds a little randomness to defensive structure and penalties. There is always a chance that the goalies throw a wrench into things and put up a low-scoring outlier. That is hockey, but looking at this season's numbers and the way these two teams are currently built, the more likely script leans toward a game with plenty of goals rather than a quiet night for the scoreboard. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.